Let's go. All right. Let me see it clap. I wish that I could fly into the sky so very high. Let me hear you. Just like a dragonfly. I'd fly above the trees, over the seas, in all degrees, to anywhere I please. Oh, I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's go and see the stars, the Milky Way, or even Mars, where it could just be ours. Let's fade into the sun, let your spirit fly, but we are one, just for a little fun. Oh, oh, yeah. I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, now it's time. Say hello to somebody you don't know. Shake your hand, turn around, say hello. Give somebody a high five. Give somebody a hug. Maybe ask them their name. Gotta get away. Did you say hi to everybody? All right, here we go. Oh, oh, oh yeah! I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, yeah. All right, repeat after me. I want to get away. 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 Oh, nice again. I want to get away. 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 One more time. I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, with you. Nice job, guys. All right, stay standing. So we're the unnamed assembly band. Every single month we have kind of a different person take the band leader position, and this month it's you all, or actually the people who were here at the last assembly. We had a bunch of songs, our topic that were kind of close to our topic for today. Y'all picked them, we put them together, and we're doing the top 5. And that was one of them. Here's another. I think you'll like it, and we're going to welcome back Miss Heather Mendenhall, who's been not with us for a while, but we're thrilled to have her back. All right, so stay with us and sing along. 2, 3, 4.
If you save yourself from marriage, you're a bore. If you don't save yourself from marriage, you're a horrible person. If you won't have a drink, then you're a prude. But they'll call you a drunk as soon as you down the first one. If you can't lose the weight, then you're just fat. But if you lose too much, then you're on crack. You're damned if you do and and you're damned if you don't. So you might as well just do whatever you want. So make lots of noise, kiss lots of boys, kiss lots of girls if that's something you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, roll up a joint or don't. Just follow your arrow wherever it points. Follow your arrow wherever it points. If you don't go to church, you'll go to hell. You're the first one on the front row. You're a self-righteous sign up. Can't win for losing. You'll just disappoint them. Just cause you can't beat them don't mean you should join them. Make lots of noise, kiss lots of boys, kiss lots of girls if that's something you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, roll up a joint or don't. Just follow your arrow wherever it points. Follow your arrow wherever it points. Say what you think, love who you love. You only get so many trips round the sun. Yeah, you only live once. Kiss lots of boys, kiss lots of girls if that's something you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, roll up a joint. I would too. Just follow your arrow wherever it points. Follow your arrow wherever it points.
All right, everybody, thanks. You can go ahead and have a seat. I'm going to introduce today's host for our assembly. You know him, you love him, Mr. Patrick Horst, everybody. Give him a hand.
Welcome everybody to Sunday Assembly. As he mentioned, my name is Patrick, and it is my honor and privilege to be your host this morning. Not only because we're here, but because this is like the perfect storm of awesomeness for an assembly this morning, and we're about to find out why. Not only is it a special occasion because you guys got to pick the songs, but our guest speaker today, the Reverend Barry Lynn, is actually a pretty big deal, and I'm so looking forward to hearing him speak, and more about that later. But real quick, welcome to Sunday Assembly. What is Sunday Assembly? Great question. Thought you'd never ask. We are a secular congregation that celebrates life. We are all about realities, not deities. We have no doctrines, and everybody is welcome. We are radically inclusive. What that means? We welcome all who welcome all. Pretty simple. Our mission is to help everyone live life as fully as possible, and we have this one life. So let's help one another to make it as good as we can, right? We have our vision is to have a Sunday assembly in any town, city, and village that wants one, and our motto is simple: live better, help often, wonder more. Now, if that sounds pretty good to you, then it's great to come somewhere where people speak your language, isn't it? So again, welcome. Now, real quickly, if you're here for the first time, not going to embarrass you, not going to have you do anything. Would you do me a favor and just stand up so we can recognize you here? Just stand up right where you are. Don't have to say anything. Just David's going to get a count. But just want to extend to you our hospitality. And just real quick, while we're talking, around this time in the assembly is when somebody who's visiting for the first time usually says, man, this place feels almost like a lot like church. I mean, have you, anybody ever thought, I mean, it's, amen, right? No, Well, let's take a look at this. I mean, it is Sunday morning, and we're in a room, and there's people in it. So check. So yeah, we're in a, I guess a room, and there's windows in it. Check. Our guest speaker has a book, so that's kind of like the Bible in the sense that there's words in it, right? But and he is a reverend. Yeah, that's true. But you know, really, that's kind of like where the similarities end, in the sense that there's a lot of places you could be in Nashville on a Sunday morning, but one of these things is not like the other. Okay, and that's kind of like what makes Sunday Assembly special. Again, we are a secular congregation that celebrates life, and you know, you kind of might be wondering, well, you know, if you're a secular person, what is there to celebrate? My question to you is, what is there not to celebrate, right? We live in this brief moment of time between two eternities, right? And we get to be alive, and we get to be aware, and we get to be aware together. How cool is that? So anyways, without any much further ado, just a few housekeeping items. For any of you who brought your kids, my kids aren't here today, but if you have your kids, there is free childcare provided right next door in Lasky Hall. It's right up the stairs. It's free. There's people to play with them and take care of them. So if you want to take advantage of that, you're more than welcome to. The restrooms are right over here in the back. So that's where that is. And I think we're ready to get started with our first event. I'm going to bring up Georgia and James Reels. They are going to do readings Georgia's going to read Freedom by Rabindranath Tagore. And right after that, James is going to read from an excerpt from Liberty of Man, Woman, and Child from Robert Greene Ingersoll. So please help me welcome Georgia.
Freedom. Freedom from fear is the freedom I claim for you, my motherland. Freedom from the burden of the ages, bending your head, breaking your back, blinding your eyes to the beckoning call of the future. Freedom from the shackles of slumber wherewith you fasten yourself in night stillness, mistrusting the star that speaks of truth's adventurous paths. Freedom from the anarchy of destiny. Whole sails are weakly yielded to the blind, uncertain winds, and the helm to a hand ever rigid and cold as death. Freedom from the insult of dwelling in a puppet's world, where movements are started through brainless wires, repeated through mindless habits, where figures wait with patience and obedience for the master of the show to be stirred into a mimicry of life.
The man who does not do his own thinking is a slave and a traitor to himself and to his fellow men. Every man should stand under the blue and the stars, under the infinite flag of nature, the peer of every other man. Standing in the presence of the unknown, all have the same right to think, and all are equally interested in the great questions of origin and destiny. All I claim, all I plead for is liberty of thought and expression. That is all. I do not pretend to tell what is absolutely true, but what I think is true. I do not pretend to tell all the truth. I do not claim that I have floated level with the heights of thought, or that I have descended to the very depths of things. I simply claim that what ideas I have a right to express, and that any man who denies that right to me is an intellectual thief and robber. That is all. Take those chains from the human soul. Break those fetters. If I have no right to think, why have I a brain? If I have no such right, have 3 or 4 men or any number who may get together and sign a creed and build a house and put a steeple upon it and a bell in it, have they the right to think? The good men, the good women are tired of the whip and lash in the realm of thought. They remember the chain and faggot with a shudder. They are free, and they give liberty to others. Whoever claims any right that he is unwilling to accord his fellow man is dishonest and infamous.
Robert Ingersoll, the great agnostic, right? All right. I would like to introduce our guest speaker for this morning. It's a privilege to have him here. The Reverend Barry Lynn is the executive director of Americans United for the Separation of Church and State. Okay, he has served in that capacity since 1982, and it is a Washington, D.C. based organization dedicated to the preservation of the Constitution's religious liberty provisions. Kind of an important role, right? In addition to his work as a longtime activist and lawyer in the civil liberties field, Lynn is an ordained minister in the United Church of Christ, offering him a unique perspective on church-state issues. An accomplished speaker and lecturer, Lynn has appeared frequently on television and radio broadcasts to offer the analysis of First Amendment issues. News programs on which Lynn has appeared include PBS's NewsHour, NBC's Today Show, Fox News Channel's O'Reilly Factor, ABC's Nightline, CNN's Crossfire, CBS's 60 Minutes, ABC's Good Morning America, CNN's Larry King Live, and national nightly news on NBC, ABC, and CBS. Goes without saying, it is a huge honor to welcome our guest speaker this morning. Please help me bring up the stage the Reverend Barry Lynn.
Thank you. Hey, thank you very much. I was really impressed. I was in Florida a couple of years ago at a Unitarian fellowship, and there was a flying spaghetti monster puppet used for the children's service that was right at the beginning. But I never expected to hear a Casey Musgraves song anywhere. So now we got it. Did a wonderful job. Okay, so for the last 25 years, and I know it was 25 years, and I have a book to prove it out there if you want to buy it, I've been working on the preservation of the separation of church and state, which means mainly you defend the right of legitimate free exercise of religion, or the ability to reject all religions, or for that matter, making sure that the federal government, the state government, the city government does not promote religion over non-religion, or any particular religion over any other particular religions. And you might be saying, well, how's that been going over the last 25 years? And there's an answer to that, and it's an answer you can actually use for any question. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, and some of it is really ugly. Let's start with the good, because we're in a good mood. One of the things you don't see too much of in the courts these days are efforts to bring prayer back to public schools. Also, one of the things you don't see too much is litigation over the subject of evolution in biology classes. That's not to say that all of a sudden everybody in the United States has decided those 1962 and 1963 decisions on school prayer, that is to say, you can't have them occurring at government-announced times, places, manners, or language in America's public schools. Everybody didn't go with that program. And similarly, everyone does not accept the evidence, the clear, unequivocal evidence for evolution. But they're not playing this out in courts these days. It's very rare. Now, separationists, of course, have to be diligent all the time because there's always some effort to do an unraveling of established law in this field. I was just spent the last 4 days in Louisiana, and I thought some of you'd go, but You feel for me. No, it was interesting. One of the evenings there were a bunch of people from the Tea Party there, and it was kind of an energizing little interchange. But you have to watch, because the religious right, I've said many things about them. Some of them I really couldn't even repeat here, even though this isn't a church. But one of the things I will say that's kind of positive is they never give up. They never go away. They are very inventive when they try to sneak things into public schools, when they try to sneak non-science into the science curriculum in your children's high schools. So I give them credit for that. Well, that's the good. Now let's look at the bad for a minute. Let me highlight a couple of issues that I think are going to confront us for the next 25 years. They're not going to go away. First is a very radical effort to redefine what religious liberty is in the United States. Religious liberty ought to mean you can think anything you want. You can believe anything that you want out of the 2,000 religions that exist in the United States, or you can simply say, we don't buy any of that at all. None. Zero, nada, nil, zitch. Now, the members of the religious right, however, and the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church, not necessarily every person who identifies as a Roman Catholic, but certainly the hierarchy of the church has radically defined religious liberty. Religious liberty now means we should be able to get from the government at every level as much money as we can possibly get from it using the clever lobbyists that we have in Washington and in state capitals. And, by the way, after we get the money, we will not necessarily abide by any of the laws if we don't like the laws. In other words, our religious convictions trump the laws that you expect us to follow. That is a radical redefinition. That's turning this concept dramatically on its head. It does not mean, for example, that you can also seek elective office and then decide you're not going to abide by the laws that you are required to follow. I'm thinking Kim Davis. Kim Davis from Kentucky. Kim Davis from Kentucky, she's the woman who ran for and won an $80,000 a year job as a chief clerk of one of the counties down in Kentucky. And then she said, well, by the way, I won't be signing any marriage licenses for same-sex couples. I don't believe in that. And then she said, and by the way, I also don't want my name printed on the official form for the court, if that official form is a marriage license. Well, they have a new governor in Kentucky, and it looks like he's going to give her just what she wants. This is the same governor that decided he would fund, after the last governor said he wouldn't fund, the so-called Ark Park. Many of you have heard of this. This is Ark Park. This is, of course, the park designed, sits next to the Creationism Museum. Yeah, that was actually not, that was, you see, that Creationism Museum, I got to give it credit, it had no government funds associated with it, none. But when he came to build, this is Ken Ham, Answers in Genesis, when he came to build the Ark Encounter, a life-size replica of Noah's Ark, it is filled with people and dinosaurs. I was on with Anderson Cooper one night with Ken Ham, and when I said the dinosaur thing, Anderson says to Ken Ham, is Barry right about that? He says, well, of course, you know, the Earth's 6,000 years old. We had to live at the same time. And I said, and then what about the unicorns? Anderson says to Ken Ham, are there unicorns on this ark? And Ken Ham kind of fumbles around a little bit, but I looked at his website that very afternoon, and he does believe that the Bible specifically mentions unicorns. Yeah. So I said, Mr. Ham, unicorns are fictional animals. I came out into the so-called green room afterwards, and one of the producers out there, a young woman in her 20s, said, Barry, what you just said in there has crushed the dreams of millions of young girls. Now, so that was, you did hear, you know, I never went to the Creation Museum. So many people have. I did try to go, and I know this sounds stereotypical, but there was a double-wide trailer that had crashed on the road into the Creation Museum. There was only one road in, so I couldn't go. Yeah, we're going to do whatever you said. I agree with that. So Kim Davis, not a responsible person. She just doesn't like to do her job. She even told Megyn Kelly one night that she expected that this same-sex marriage thing would happen, but she still ran for office, and she still took it. Now, she didn't, by the way, a lot of people said she was just like Rosa Parks. She was not like Rosa Parks. She was not Martin Luther King. She was not Dred Scott. She was not Joan of Arc. She was nobody but a woman who simply wouldn't do the job she was paid to do and tried to find some reason to avoid doing it. Mike Huckabee, you may remember him. He was running for the presidency along with about 18 other people in one political party, and he went to see Kim Davis when she got out of jail, and he said, "This woman represents the criminalization of Christianity in America." Criminalization. Not exactly. Now, in the last couple of weeks, though, you've seen that some of your fellow somewhat south of the border states have enacted legislation that is really terrible. North Carolina, Mississippi. In Mississippi, of course, it's such an extreme bill that just a few days ago, an owner of a recreational vehicle park decided that because his church opposed interracial marriage, he was throwing out the one interracial couple in his RV park. That will probably not stand, but you can imagine on the areas that are less settled as legal principles, this is going to be a very serious law. And of course, it's very difficult to challenge laws on their face anymore. You have to find clients. You have to find the people who can bring the real cases and controversies. Now, as I said, North Carolina, Mississippi, you got some issues here. You got probably 3 bills. One's already on the governor's desk. The other 2 are probably going to be there this week. The one that's on the governor's desk is, of course, to make the Holy Bible the state book. And so I wondered, well, what are the other state things? I asked my staff. They said, well, the raccoon is the state animal down here. And let's see. The tomato is the state fruit, which, of course, eliminates that whole fruit or vegetable controversy. And then the Barrett Model M82 recoil 50 caliber semi-automatic rifle is a state firearm. So that's good. So we can get the Bible together with that. Ralph Reed, remember him? He ran the Christian Coalition. He told me once that he said, it's the gun and the Bible that won the West. So see, you could be right in that category. And you got another bill coming, counselors that don't approve of certain lifestyles or whatever they think they are. They don't have to get counseling from your state-paid employees. So that's a big problem. And then you've got others, and the governor's probably going to see all of them this week. It's one more example about this religious liberty and how weird it is, the weird redefinition it is. The Affordable Care Act, which I think they're going to vote for the 18th time this week to repeal the Affordable Care Act because they don't have much to do up in Washington. That's why I come down here. Churches in the Affordable Care Act and other religious institutions are not required to do anything. They don't have to cover any contraceptive measures in the Affordable Care Act's insurance coverage for their employees. Churches, other places of worship, have to do nothing. What about church-affiliated groups, social services associated with churches, universities and colleges, hospitals? Well, they have a major loophole. They don't have to cover it either. The only thing they have to do for contraceptive insurance is to sign a 737-word document that says, we cannot in good conscience cover contraceptives for our women students or our women employees, and sign it and drop it in the post box, and it's done. Then it's up to the federal government to come up and negotiate some kind of contraceptive insurance for those students or those workers who are not covered. Well, I said at the time that this was a decision being made, I was skeptical about whether this was going to work, because I had a feeling that some people would take a very hard line against this. They would say, that's an opt-out maybe, that's what you call it, we call it wrong. We call it sinful, and that's exactly what they did. We represent the only woman, I believe, represented by anybody in the country directly. But we intervened in a case at Notre Dame University, which, because you are scientifically oriented, I suspect, I think Notre Dame gets $1 gazillion worth of government grants and contracts. However, they would not sign this paper, so we've sued them, and so far we've won. This is the same case, by the way, very similar to the 7 cases that were heard by the United States Supreme Court just 2 weeks ago. And this is the argument, and I know it sounds circular, and I know it sounds silly, but here it is. We cannot, in good conscience, sign a statement that says we cannot, in good conscience, cover a product, a service, a method of preventing birth. So we have the constitutional right to deny even signing a statement that we have a constitutional right not to do something. Now, some of you look to be old enough to have been through the Vietnam War. Now, if you didn't want to go to the Vietnam War, you wanted to be a conscientious objector, you could not sign a paper saying, I don't want war in any form, I don't agree with it. You had to write a virtual treatise. For most of that war, you had to sign it, cite religious references in it, and then present it first to a group of bureaucrats and then maybe to a federal court. People would have loved to have simply signed a little statement, we don't believe in war, I don't believe in war in any form, I'm not going. But that was what it was then. That was what conscience meant then. Now conscience means, we'll see, might be a 4-4 decision, that just signing a statement really violates your own principles, your own religious freedom. We'll see how that goes. This is the same group, and one of those 6 groups, that Little Sisters of the Poor. You may have heard of them. If you watch Fox News or listen to Ted Cruz talk about this, there's always something playing in the back. These are the lawyers for Little Sisters of the Poor, which is a national chain of nursing homes. It plays in the background, and it's always a picture of a nun helping an elderly woman in a wheelchair. And that really does happen, but not too often, because this is a national chain of nursing homes that mainly employs low-paid women workers to take care of your parents, my parents, grandparents. That's what this is. It's a big money-making proposition. If you listen to Ted Cruz talk about this, honestly, you would think that President Obama was at gunpoint forcing nuns to use birth control. That's what they want you to think. That's what that imagery is supposed to create. So that's one realm. The other big issue that we're going to face over the next 25 years is how to figure out what to do with the faith-based initiative. This was started by George Bush. The idea was if you were a religious organization, you could get a grant, get a government contract in order to do secular work. Secular work. Serve meals, house the homeless. President Bush was a big supporter of it. Whole program was built on a fraud, a lie. It was built on the idea that religious institutions were ineligible to get federal funds. Tell that to the Salvation Army last year. That's a Christian denomination, by the way, $90 million. Most Catholic charities in most major cities get 1/3 of their budget from state, federal, and local government. So if that's discrimination on the basis of religion, you might want to sign up as a church and get some. The other thing that George Bush instituted was what he called preferential hiring. I'd call it bigoted hiring. It says that you can literally hang up on the wall of a facility, if you're, say, a Baptist home for children, you put up, you're looking for a daycare worker, no Jews or humanists need apply. And that would be perfectly permissible under the rules as set up by the George Bush administration. When Barack Obama was running for president, he said, well, that's indefensible. We can't do that. We're going to change that. And now 7.5 years later, guess what? That's not been changed. Barack Obama, to his credit, about a year ago, decided that if you were a religious organization and you were getting a government grant or a government contract, you couldn't discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation. Well, and that's a good thing. And the religious group said, we demand an opt-out, and he didn't give them that. So now we have this irony, though. In that Baptist home for children, they can't discriminate against you if you happen to be, say, a lesbian Unitarian on the basis of being a lesbian, but they can still discriminate against you on the basis of you being a Unitarian. That makes no sense. That's cockamamie. That's absolutely silly. 140 groups, including many secularist groups, as well as some religious groups and every civil rights group in the country, wrote the president a few months ago saying, change that rule. Like you said you would, change that rule. He still hasn't done it, and he's running out of time to do that. It is difficult for anyone with a straight face to say that the president would be doing anything terribly controversial by denying the right of an entity that is religious but is also taking government funds not to have to obey the same civil rights laws that the rest of us need to do. But that discrimination continues. If you want to do one thing, write a letter, write a note, call the White House, say you're disturbed when you heard that the president has not changed this position on this very important matter of civil rights and civil liberties. So that's the good, that's the bad. I want to get to the ugly just briefly here because I'm almost out of time. Unless you've been living in a vampire cave for the last year, you know we're in the middle of a political campaign. We know that it is absolutely awash in the worst that goes into political campaigning, including the use of religion and religiosity, sexism, religious bigotry of all kinds. It looks like candidates are often seeking to be the theologian-in-chief instead of the commander-in-chief. And I must say it's starting to look like that in both major political parties. The only thing that both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton agree about is their favorite book, the Bible. That's right, they got a big bead on the state of Tennessee. They already like it. The Bible sells more books, by the way, than any other book, more than Stephen King, more than J.K. Rowling. Every year, they don't need Tennessee's help, nor do they need Donald Trump's or Hillary Clinton's. Donald Trump, I think, doesn't understand the Bible perhaps as much as Hillary does. Hillary, keeps saying that we all have God-given talents. She mentioned that 3 times in the first debate. I was reading all my Twitter notices, and a lot of humanists, a lot of atheists noticed it. Not just the first and the second, but 3 times she mentions that. Donald Trump, of course, went to Liberty University. He rarely used notes at that time, but he had notes. And I wondered why he had those notes. And it was for one specific purpose. Donald Trump wanted to say, I was speaking to Jerry Jr., it's Jerry Falwell's son, who runs Liberty University now, and we were talking about that famous passage, 2 Corinthians. Yeah, I thought, this is like the start of a joke, right? 2 Corinthians and an Ephesian walk into a bar. So, now, see, I don't know. Look, the guy's a Presbyterian. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't know any more about it. There were initially 4 candidates running in one political party. I won't name it. 4 candidates who all believed that God had told them, or a close relative of theirs had told them, that they would be the next president of the United States. Now, 2 of them are actually still running, but 2 of them are out of the running, which kind of means they had a failure to communicate with the divine. And we'll see what happens to the other 2. I honestly wish we could get back to a time like we had in 1960. John Kennedy was running to be the first Catholic president. He was running to be the president. People were worried about the fact that he was a Catholic. Would he listen to the Constitution, or would he listen to the Pope in Rome? So he did something very clever. He decided to get some of his Baptist minister friends down in Houston, Texas, to invite him to speak to a big assembly of hundreds and hundreds of Baptist preachers. And he did. And right when he got to this point of talking about the authority that he would listen to, he made the following statement: I believe in an America where the separation of church and state is absolute. Now, think about it. Could anybody say that today? Probably not. But I'd like to see a day come, and I think it will, when a statement like John Kennedy made in 1960 was not just not controversial, but essential to gaining any elective office in the United States, because that's what it's all about. Thanks for coming out. Enjoy meeting you. Thanks.
The Reverend Barry Lynn. Let's show our appreciation, everybody. At this time, we do something that we alternately call moment of silence. Do we have our screen up? Or a moment of science. That's what I went with today. And we're just going to take a moment, little Zen pause here real quick, to just reflect on kind of like what it means to be here this morning and what it means for what we're about to see on the screen. Mind-blowing, isn't it? Not to mention the million-year-old fossil fuels that it took to put that there, but the fact that as a species we've evolved to the point where we can understand the laws that govern the reality we live in, understand and use them to overcome the reality that binds us to this planet and explore. How awesome. Not only that, but that we are in space, and this picture was taken from the International Space Station, which represents former sworn foes, United States and then Soviet Union, working together for progress, for science, for understanding. Is there a moment of silence? All right. Our next segment, I would like to bring up to the stage the band. They're going to play a song, and it's one that we've heard before and love, and it's Carry On by the band Fun.
Well, I woke up to the sound of silence. The cars were cutting like knives in fistfights. And I found you with a bottle of wine, your head in the curtains, your heart like the 4th of July. You swore and said we are not shining stars. This I know, I never said we are. Though I've never been through hell like that, I've closed enough windows to know you can never look back.
If you're lost and alone, and you're sinking like a stone, carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground. Carry on.
Carry on, carry on. So I met up with some friends at the edge of the night on a bar off 75. And we talked and talked about how our parents will die, all our neighbors and wives.
But I like to think I can cheat it on
To make up for the times I've been cheated on.
And it's nice to know when I was left for dead,
I was found and now I don't run the streets. I am not the ghost you are to me. Just not being alone.
and you're sinking like a stone.
Carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground. Carry on. Whoa, my head is on fire, and my legs are fine. After all, they are mine. Lay your clothes down on the floor.
On the dawn,
For the dawn, told me now, no one's ever gonna stop us now. We are a shining star.
we are invincible.
We are who we are.
On our darkest day, when we're miles away,
So we'll come when we find our way home. When you're lost in a road, or you're sinking like a stone, carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground. Carry on. Oh,
no one's ever gonna no one's ever gonna stop us no one's ever gonna stop no one's ever gonna stop us now.
How about that unnamed assembly band? How about it? Woo! Unbelievable. All right, this next segment, if you would help me welcome to the stage Elvis Wilson. This next section is called Trying My Best. Okay, and this is special. This Trying My Best is where Sunday Assembly, we get a little bit more real and a little bit more personal, perhaps. And this, every month, someone volunteers to give a window into their own personal story and what this all means to them. Would you help me welcome Elvis Wilson?
Honestly, this is not very personal, but it's something I believe in. And that's okay. Thank you, sir. Barry may have stolen a little of my thunder here, but are you like me? Do you get frustrated by excuses that people make? Yeah. It's that time again, 2016, an election year for the office of the President of the United States of America. You guys know. Right. Okay, good. One person, one vote. The ultimate way the citizen gets to express by very simple and specific action his or her own freedom. Well, not to sound like a negative Nancy here, but not everyone of voting age in America takes advantage of this privilege. What the what? So I've compiled for you, my dear assemblers, the top 10 reasons I've heard of why someone isn't voting this year. And as I read these, feel free to express your frustration out loud with me. Call it therapy, and maybe, just maybe, I can save you from sharing in my dreaded place of angst. Let's get this out of our system. Let's practice a little frustration. You guys over here. What? Okay. that's something I want to feel from you. Number 10. Here, on this side, I'm going to be the person saying the excuse. On this side, this is me, okay? I'm too busy. Quit your Netflix binging, register to vote, and get to the polls. Most communities offer early voting and typically are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you squeeze in enough time to see what's going on with Beyonce in her Twitter feed, you can squeeze in time to vote. Number 9. Registering to vote is way too hard. Seriously! That's an excuse. Get online at your home or local library, download the form, fill it out, and send it in. I'll give you the freaking stamp. Getting onto an online porn site is harder to do than downloading the voter registration application on dmv.org, or so I've been told. Sorry, honey. Number 8. I don't really care one way or another. God! Jesus Christ! If you'd rather your tax dollars go to corporate welfare instead of the well-being of Americans, you better start caring. Number 7. The way and the lines at the polling stations are way too long. Give me a break! Come on! Oh, but the line at Starbucks where you waited a half an hour to get your Zebra Double Mocha Quad Caramel Latte with an extra pump of vanilla wasn't too long? Ah! Number 6. I hate politics. Are you 8? Let's see, wait. Boo freaking who? Who doesn't? Until you come up with a better system of governing, it's what we got, people. Make it better and quit whining about it. Number 5. I'm not sure if I can vote or not. Are you 18 years old? Do you meet the residency requirements of the state of Tennessee? It took me about 2 seconds to Google that. I'm starting to lose it here, okay? Number 4. My vote won't make a difference. Yes, it will. There are over 210 million people of voting age in the United States. If every one of these voters wanted Teslas in every garage in America, there'd be a Tesla in every garage in America. Am I right, Tyler? Yeah. Where there are numbers, there is power. It's called democracy. Jeez Louise. Okay, number 3. Whew, should have taken my blood pressure medicine. Number 3, because I'm a person of color, actual voting is not easy. True story. I'm speaking on the side of the mic, okay? This is a story. I'm an Indian. I'm of Indian descent, and I was harassed while trying to vote in 2012. I don't want to go back. I was singled out and asked to spell my name to prove who I was. I was who I was. As I started to spell my name, the xenophobic poll worker barked at me and said if I didn't spell it right, he was going to have me thrown out. My wife was terrified. And I don't think I can put up with that again. I brought my photo ID as was required, but he still made me feel unsafe, marginalized. Wait a minute. This guy may actually have a reason not to vote. It's like we have to change these voter restriction laws. Hope y'all agree with me there, right? All right. Ah! Everyone should be able to vote. You should have to opt out of not voting. It should. Okay, number 2. I don't like any of the candidates. And they probably don't like you either. So get a write-in ballot and vote for Justin Bieber if you like. Because if 210 million people did just that, he'd be president. And that's wait for it, hope you can believe in. Ah! And the number 1 reason I've heard for someone not voting is my vote won't count. The year was 2000. The state is Florida. The difference in votes for the presidential election that year was 537. That's about the same number of people that have gone into space, believe it or not. This ain't rocket science, people. Your vote counts, and you can make a huge difference. So I'm trying my best here. I'm trying to get everyone to vote, and I hope you will too. One vote, one person, total freedom. Thank you very much.
How about it, Elvis Wilson? All right. Very deeply personal, sharing. No. Hey, something that we can all take home with us, right? Okay, at this point, I would like to direct your attention to a few things that are going to be happening in your near future. First and foremost, they're actually in your program if you want to check and follow along. The first and foremost goes without saying, tonight, this evening, the Reverend Barry Lynn, who we've just had the privilege of hearing this morning, is actually going to be speaking again here in town at the West Police Precinct on the topic of the next Supreme Court. How big will it be, and why you should care? I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there. I hope you can be too. It's at 5:30. Just a couple quick comments about this event here that happens once a month for Sunday Assembly is only a small part of what Sunday Assembly is. And we're going to talk about a few of those things really briefly. But if you want to find out and just kind of, this is kind of like a formal meeting. But if you want to kind of get to know the people that are to your left and right on a more informal, casual, interpersonal level, there are several ways you can do that. Number one, there's the Middle Ground Potluck, which is a get-together at George and Stephen's house. I've been there many times. It's awesome, great time, good food, and good hanging out. Also, David just reminded me that on Sunday, May 1st at 10 a.m., there's the coffee and donuts, I believe, in Dragon Park. That is not on your program, but come hang out Sunday, May 1st. Furthermore, just a personal plug that I'd like to throw in here. The second ever Reason Rally is happening this June in Washington, D.C. Okay, June 4. And it's going to be pretty cool. Here we go. It's going to be the largest gathering of secular people in history that we know of. And speakers include, just going to rattle a few off, Lawrence Cross, John E. Debb, Julie Sweeney, James Randi, Dan Barker, Leanne Lord, Amber Heard, Margaret Cho, and many, many more. And I promise I can keep a secret, but I'm going to give you a hint. One of the people whose songs we played today is going to be there. I'm not going to say which. Just a hint. Anyways, a bunch of us are going to be going. Bob Marley's going to, no, he's not going to be there. Sorry. That's coming up. That would be cool. Anyways, a bunch of us are going to be making a road trip. And if you want to get involved, you want to come out, the band that you just heard, who are our pride and joy here in Nashville, the Unnamed Assembly Band, are going to be leading an assembly the following morning. It's going to be very cool. So just real quick, a couple of more announcements. Have a bunch of people. Say what? Thank you. If you would like to help support that and make that happen, on our Facebook page, there is going to be a GoFundMe link to how you can chip in to make that happen. There's some expenses. We're going to be giving away swag and flyers and stuff like that, just to let the broader secular community know what Sunday Assembly is all about. Just kind of reaching out and kind of coming into our own on the secular stage. So if you want to help support and make that happen, look for the GoFundMe campaign. You can chip in a couple dollars. Okay, have some people who have birthdays this month. Want to acknowledge them. Real quick, would everybody help me congratulate Janine, Agnieszka, Michael, and Tierney Hale, all having birthdays this month. Happy birthday. Please stand. Please stand. All right. Happy birthday, everybody. There we go. All right. And one more. Okay, also having wedding anniversaries are Jim and Pat and Aniska and Marson. So, again, congratulations to them. Congratulations. A couple more announcements. There you are. The Sunday Assembly Board is having elections next month, okay? And if you really are passionate about making this a broader, more effective, more welcoming, more awesome community, this is your chance to be involved. And so it tells you right there how you can let people know how to do that. And also in May, very cool, there's going to be a volunteer fair. First time we've done this. If you want to know what it takes to make this happen and find out how you can exercise your freedom, exercise your initiative, your enterprising nature and help make this a more welcoming community for everybody, you can come and find out more about that next month at the end of the assembly. Now, I would be remiss if I did not mention how you can contribute today, and that is, Tanya, could you stand up? She might be outside. Tanya, if you want to make a donation, she is right there at the front. She can help you do that via credit card, or the way I do it is just monthly via PayPal, and it helps to, here's the thing about contributing to make this happen. This is not just about paying the rent. This is not about just putting coffee or whatever. What we're doing here is we're creating a community, right? And as people, as human beings on this planet, we need a tribe, don't we? We need people to kind of like be and walk with us. And that's kind of like what this is about. Somebody said this, and I love this quote. As secular people, we have a lot of people, a lot of things that we draw from, a lot of people that we look up to. Somebody said, Carl Sagan is great and all, but he's not going to help me find a babysitter, right? For that, we need each other, right? And that's what this is all about. So please contribute and help make that happen. Okay, and last, this is an announcement that I am very excited to be able to make. We've heard a lot about how this is an election year and what that means and the responsibility that is for each one of us. Well, it's kind of like the only thing that's worse than an election year is what? Not having elections, right? And we get to live in a state where we get to fight. We have the privilege of fighting for a secular government that is accessible to all right? And as we know, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance, as it says on our program. And we get to have that battle right here, don't we, in the state of Tennessee. And as a community, we're just getting warmed up. And this announcement, I'm very excited to make. Gail, would you stand up, please? Guys, this is Gail Jordan, and she has just announced her candidacy for Senate for the state of Tennessee. Woo! All right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, now, as Sunday Assembly, we know we are a nonprofit. We don't do politicking or electioneering. And as far as I know, the person that she's running against is a gentleman and a scholar. I never met him. But I think it's pretty cool that where we are in the buckle of the Bible Belt, that there's, in Washington, there's not a single member of Congress serving who's openly secular. And as a demographic, we know that we are massively underrepresented. Okay, and we get to live in a state whose elected representatives, legal scholars all, have just declared, again, that the book that they want, of all the books that they could have picked, is one that excludes people like you and me. Okay? So we know what she's up against, and we know the hornet's nest she's walking into. And I can hardly imagine any challenge more exhilarating and more terrifying than running for public office. And she's thrown her hat into the ring. And so just on that merit alone, on the courage that it takes, I think it's worthwhile that we acknowledge what she's doing here. Last chance. Have I missed anything? Announcements? Okay, well, we'll certainly mention, yeah. You want to say something? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, so help often, sign up. Also, goes without saying, right after this, the band is going to close us out if you guys want to start coming up. Okay, just a second. Go ahead. You can keep coming up, band. Go ahead, Charles, if you got something you want to add. You want to come up to the mic real quick, or what you got? I think I can say it. All right. Fantastic. And where can people find out about it? Is that right out there? Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. So that brings us two things. Number one, there's the opportunity to hang out immediately after the assembly. If you would like to join us at Blackstone, it's right nearby. They treat us great. It's a good time. And then, as Charles mentioned, this evening after the Barry Lynn event, okay? How about you guys help me welcome the band to the stage? The name of the song is Get Up, Stand Up. How about let's stand up and let's bring them to the stage. Take it away.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Sing with me. Preacher man, don't tell me heaven is under the earth. I know you don't know what life is really worth. Is that all that glitters is gold? And half the story's never been told, but now you see the light. Stand up for your rights. Come on. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Here we go. Most people think a great God will come from the sky and take away everything and make everybody feel high. But if you know what life is worth, you will look for yours on earth, and now you see the light. Stand up for your rights. Come on. Get up, stand up. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Don't let them push you around. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Sick and tired of the ism, schism game. Die and go to heaven in Jesus' name. We know and we understand an almighty God is a living man. You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And now we see the light. Stand up for your rights. Come on. Get up, stand up. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Stand up for your rights. Stand up. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Whoa. Get up, stand up. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Let me hear that last part again. Don't give up the fight. Don't give up the fight. Last time. Don't give up the fight. Nice. All right, we got one more song for you. I want to take a quick moment and introduce the Unnamed Assembly Band. None of this would be possible without the guys up at the top. First, specifically Jason Panks on sound, Jeremy Wells putting all of the visuals and the slides together, and Cornel taking pictures. Awesome. I'm going to give you guys some props down here. We got Franco Hashiguchi singing and playing horns. Elmer Feliciano on the horns. We got Ray Dennison tickling the ivories. Christopher Cisneros on guitar. Heather Mendenhall vocals. My name's Adam Newton. We've got Marina Campbell singing. Bill Campbell playing bass today. Nice. Stephen Phelps on voice and guitar. And Christopher Shannon shredding the drums. So if you guys want to be part of this, always hit me up. We can definitely work you in. That's part of the reason why we're the Unnamed Assembly Band. This is the last song of the group that you guys all recommended from last time. So I think it ends us on a fitting note. Here we go.
You guys picked them, we didn't.
Here we go.
Woo, woo, woo. Woo, woo, woo.
but you could not look around. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
I take my money to the welfare line. See you standing in it every time.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
The color of your skin don't matter to me, as long as we can live in harmony. Yeah, why can't we be friends?
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
I'd kinda like to be the president,
Go friends!
but who's gonna vote for an atheist?
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
Sometimes I don't speak right, and yet I know what I'm blogging about.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
I hear you waiting for the CIA. They wouldn't have you in the mafia. Yeah.
Why can't we be friends? 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 Why can't we be friends?
Let me hear ya.
Why can't we be friends? 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 Why can't we be friends?
Awesome, guys. Thank you all for coming today. Please join us at Blackstone for lunch. Stick around, say hello to somebody you don't know. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next month.